Hey everybody, Ryan here. Alright, this is recorded before all the games for today, the 28th of February. So this is the standings as of this morning. Alright, and after last night's game, including that late night crazy game between San Jose and St. Louis. Alright, so let's check out the North Division. Alright, this is where it stands right now. Toronto's still on top by 6 points, and they have a game in hand, the team that's 6 points behind them. Winnipeg is probably the closest with games in hand. Winnipeg has 2 games in hand, so they could theoretically, winning those 2 games, be 31 points, so 3 points behind still. So Toronto is undoubtedly the top team in this division. So, obviously, as you can tell, 34 points. Edmonton, 28 points. Winnipeg, 27. Montreal, 23. Montreal's been a team on the slide. I mean, you look at their last 10 over here in this column, they and Vancouver are the only teams that are, and Calgary are the only teams with less than 500 over the last 10 games. Now, Calgary has caught up to them. They still had 2 games in hand over Calgary, though, so they could advance that lead if they can turn it around. 2-5-3 over the last 10, that's not good. I mean, good news for them is Calgary's been 4-5-1 over the last 10. And Vancouver, at this point, really has little to no chance of catching up. I mean, it's a shortened season like this. Theoretically, yes, they can catch them, but realistically, doubtful. Ottawa is highly doubtful they'll catch up, but if anything, Ottawa may pass Vancouver. I know I didn't pick Vancouver to be worse in this division, but at this point, it looks like they could be. Ottawa actually has been doing well over the last 10. They're 5-5 in the last 10. That's good. I mean, their plus minus is still awful, minus 30. Vancouver at least is minus 17. That's better, but still not good. Calgary minus 7. Then the top 4 teams who would be making the playoffs theoretically are in the positive differential. I mean, Montreal's close to that border, but we'll have to see how they respond. They need to do better than they have. Winnipeg's been very good in the last 10. So has Edmonton, so has Toronto. So, I mean, I think it's between those 3 as to really who wins this division at this point. I mean, Montreal could turn around and get back in it, but they're 11 points behind Toronto at this point. With 2 games in hand, so, I mean, theoretically, I guess they're 7 points back, but realistically, they're 11 points back as of right now. That's a big differential to make up in a shortened season. So, that's where the North Division stands. I mean, Edmonton is playing well. I mean, they lost their last game, but still. There you go. Winnipeg's been doing well. Really well. 4-game winning streak right now. Toronto, 2-game winning streak. So, let's see. I mean, it's really about who makes that last spot at this point. Alright, on to the East Division. Alright, right now, Washington's in the top. 26 points. Boston is next, tied with the New York Islanders. But Boston has games in hand. And they have games in hand over Washington, too. But Boston lost to straight and pretty handily. At that, I think both were 7-2 and 6-2 combined. Or not combined, but between those two. That's not good numbers. So we'll have to see how they respond today. Philadelphia is tied with Pittsburgh, holding down that last playoff spot. Both play today. We'll see how they do. Rangers are starting to do better, and who knows? Maybe that assist from Lafreniere last game, maybe he gets going, especially with Panarin out. He might get more minutes. New Jersey's 500 right now. They've been kind of trending in the wrong direction last couple games, so we'll see. Buffalo's at the bottom of this division. I mean, at this point, the Rangers have a long shot to make the playoffs, but I mean, I guess anything's possible. I mean, at this point, your top 4, Washington, Boston, New York Islanders, and Philadelphia. Pittsburgh is tied with Philadelphia, but those are really the 5 that you have to watch. Rangers maybe a little bit. I mean, New Jersey's been surprising thus far, but I don't think they're going to make it still. I mean, the Rangers are the only one on the outside looking in that has a positive goal differential. Even the Penguins, who are ahead of them, have a negative. So that's where we're standing. I mean, I still think. I think Philly could still pull it off. I mean, they have 3 games in hand over Washington. Only one over Boston, though, but still, that 1 point difference between them is easily overcome in that one game if they can win it. All right, on to the Central. All right, Tampa and Florida are tied for first in this division. I don't know anyone who picked Florida to be first in this division. I don't even think most Florida fans picked that this year, if any. But hey, if you did, congratulations. You saw something the majority of people did not. Because they've been good. I mean, they're 13-4-3. That's not a weak number by any stretch. Now, will they do anything in the playoffs is the real question, because if they keep that up, they will definitely be in the playoffs. I mean, they have an 8-point advantage ahead of Columbus with 2 games in hand to follow the playoffs. That's a heck of a drop at that point to get to that point. Now, is it possible with Florida? If their history is any indication, it is probably possible, but highly unlikely. I don't see them doing that. Now, are they going to be able to beat someone like Carolina or Tampa in the playoffs? I don't see it, but they've already surprised me this year, so I could be surprised again. I mean, especially if Tampa keeps getting injuries like they've been getting, then anything's possible. But as of right now, I still think Tampa's that top team in that division. Yes, they're tied with Florida, but they have a game in hand. So we'll see where that ends. And they have probably the best differential in the league, other than maybe Toronto at this point. And then Chicago, still surprising in that 4th place spot. I don't think anybody picked them to be in the playoff picture. I know for me, before Jonathan Toews got hurt, I had them picked at 7th in this division. Once Toews and Doc got hurt, I knocked them down to 8th. And that's the crazy thing, is if they get those 2 back, look at where they are now. Who knows where they'll be with those 2 back and producing. Because, I mean, Kirby Doc, before he got hurt, that was just devastating seeing him get hurt. You could just see all Chicago Blackhawk fans just take a sudden breath in and hold it like, oh, God, how bad is it? It was bad, but he should be back towards the end of the season if early signs were accurate. Alright, so Nashville, still a surprise being as bad as they have been. Dallas is now last in this division. Granted, they have a significant amount of games in hand, but also they're 2-5-3 in their last 10. So, can they really win the 6-game difference with Chicago and pass them? I guess, but is it going to happen? Probably not. The way they've been playing, they've been awful of late. I mean, 2-5-3, that's the worst in this division. Columbus is 3-5-2. I mean, Columbus is not doing well either. Nashville, I mean, who knows? They're talking about fire sailing. Detroit will probably trade off a couple of expiring contracts, but I'm not sure they got much else to trade away at this point without getting rid of talent. I mean, you don't want to do that when you're rebuilding, though. Alright, so that's where this division stands. I mean, I didn't expect to see Florida tie for first in this division and Dallas being dead last. I did not see that. Nor did I see Chicago even being in the playoff picture, and they are. And by a good margin. 5-point difference between them and Columbus right now, and both played today. We'll see if that changes all, but who knows? Alright, last division, the West Division. My team's not last. That's the good news, I guess. They're still so disappointing. And they're not last, and the team behind them is 3 games in hand. Yeah, they're going to be last. Alright, so right now, Vegas is in the lead in this division, followed by Minnesota. Same Minnesota team that when we saw them trading away the players they did in the offseason, I think a lot of people were like, oh man, they're going into a rebuild. No, I think they'd call it a retool that has succeeded so far. They've won 6 in a row. They were a 500 team before then. They are now 12-6. I'd say that's a good stretch. They're 7-3 in the last 10. Same with Vegas, 7-3. St. Louis, I'd be more worried about. Well, the injuries building up. They have not been playing well. Yes, they beat San Jose last night, but they beat them 7-6. They came into that game with 60 goals for and 61 goals against. That is not good for a St. Louis team that was expected to be one of the top teams in this division. I still think they're going to be, but with the games in hand and that, they may be in trouble. They really may be. I mean, Colorado didn't have a good stretch there for a little bit, but they've won 2 in a row now, and handily. And they're 6-3-1 in the last 10, so... And they have games in hand over St. Louis. 3 games, to be exact. And they're 1 point back of them. Same amount of games between them and Minnesota. So, that little rivalry is going to continue going at this point. I mean, LA's in this run, right? LA's in the running for this right now, too. 22 points for LA. They're 1 point behind Colorado. 2 points behind St. Louis, who they have 1 game in hand over, so they could technically be tied with St. Louis if they win that game. So, LA's in the running, and they haven't been bad. 6-2-2 in their last 10. That's a good run. Arizona's been mediocre. I mean, they're still in the running with it, even being mediocre. They're at 21 points, so they're 2 points behind Colorado for last place in the division. Or last playoff spot, sorry, not last place. But they're 4-4-2 in their last 10 with 2 straight losses now, after embarrassing the Ducks in a 2-game series. They want to be playing the Ducks more often. Anaheim, 17 points, pulling up second last. And San Jose is in last, but that is by 1 point with a 3-game advantage over that team they're behind. Now, you look at the last 3 in the division, there's probably a reason they're last. I mean, last 10, 2 straight losses for Arizona and San Jose, 2 straight overtime losses for Anaheim. Anaheim, I can't say enough how bad they are. San Jose just can't get their goalies to stop a puck. I mean, their coach let Devin Dubnyk take 7 goals against last night instead of putting Myron Jones in to do about the same. So, I mean, San Jose looked good with the offensive portion yesterday. And, I mean, they're now missing Tomas Hertl. And yet, without Hertl, they scored their first 6-goal game last night. So, I don't know. I don't know what's happening with that team either. It's insanity out there. So, that's where we all stand in all the standings right now. I mean, your leaders, Vegas, Toronto. All right, the top four teams in the entire league are Toronto, Washington, Tampa/Florida, and Vegas. So that's where your top 4. That's where your division leaders are. All right. Other than that, make sure to subscribe, comment, share, like, and if you don't see it down the bottom corner down there below the screen or even on the screen, there's a subscribe button. Please hit that subscribe button. Alright, and check out these videos that are on the screen right now too. Alright, other than that, I will see you all next video. Bye everybody.